In the animal kingdom, intelligence has evolved in many different ways in many different creatures. The level of intelligence varies between the species, but scientists have found that the New Caledonian crow is the most intelligent.
You probably think that once you step outside, you fade into the crowd, unseen, untracked. That belief couldn't be more wrong. A quiet surveillance network follows you everywhere, recognizing your face, learning your habits, and sharing what it knows with others nearby. It isn't a satellite. It isn't your phone. It's sitting on the power lines above your head. Wherever humans settle, cities, suburbs, even remote wilderness, crows are already watching. Recently, scientists took thousands of hours of crow vocalizations and fed them into a powerful AI. They expected chaos, random squawks, meaningless animal noise. Instead, the system heard something chilling: structure, language. And what that language seems to say about us is unsettling. At first, the goal was simple. Could the machine sort sounds into basic categories? Food calls he, re. Danger alerts there. Nothing fancy. But then the data went off the rails. The AI didn't just classify sounds. It started flagging patterns so complex they stunned the researchers. The output spiked in ways no one could explain. The system wasn't detecting noise. It was detecting syntax. Syntax is what makes language work. It's the difference between "the cat sat on the mat" and word salad nonsense. Humans assumed animal sounds were just emotional blurts. Barking means excitement, purring means contentment. But the AI saw rules, order, grammar. Then it zeroed in on one specific vocal pattern. Let's call it the red hat signal. In the recordings, a man wearing a red hat walked through a park. A crow cried out. To us, it sounded ordinary, but the AI measured pitch, rhythm, spacing, and tagged it as a unique identifier. 3 days later, the same man returned. The same crow made the same sound. Interesting? Sure, but not shocking. Animals recognize individuals all the time. Then it escalated. A week later, a completely different crow, one that had never encountered the man before, used the exact same vocal pattern when he appeared. That's the moment everything changed. The first crow hadn't just reacted, it had described him. It had broadcast a label, a data packet, to the flock. The AI confirmed that this sound was never used for anyone else. Ever. It was a proper noun. They had named him, and that was just the beginning. As the AI dug deeper, things got darker. It discovered crow conversations that happened before events occurred. Groups gathering in trees, exchanging long, complex sound sequences the system identified as planning stages. These birds weren't just responding to the world, they were anticipating it, strategizing. Even more disturbing, a massive portion of their communication appears to revolve around humans. We aren't background noise to them, we're central characters. The AI also detected emotional tags attached to human labels, some neutral, many negative. There are distinct alerts for human with stick versus human with food. That changes everything. For centuries, we dismissed crows as nuisances, scavengers to shoo away or pelt with stones. We thought they were dumb. All that time they were observing, recording, building profiles. And now that we can finally read those profiles, the real question isn't whether they can communicate. It's what happens when they stop just talking and start acting. If they have names for us, do they also have histories? The AI strongly suggests yes. Patterns repeat across years, passed from older birds to younger ones. Your reputation in crow society might be older than your car. You could have a criminal record in the sky and never know it. And the wildest part? This AI has barely scratched the surface. Beneath the chatter is a web of intelligence that makes human surveillance look like a toy. The unseen eyes are already judging you. So how is any of this possible? We're talking about birds, creatures with brains the size of walnuts. That shouldn't be enough for this level of complexity. But here's the truth. We've been measuring intelligence wrong for a very long time. Humans obsessed over the cerebral cortex, the wrinkled outer layer of our brains, and assumed it was the only path to advanced thought. Birds don't have one. Their brains look smooth, So for decades, scientists glanced inside and concluded nothing important was happening. Big mistake. Birds evolved a different structure called the pallium. It looks simple, but under a microscope, the neuron density is insane. A crow's brain is like a supercomputer compressed into a USB stick. Pound for pound, it rivals a chimpanzee's. That's why researchers now call them feathered apes. Take the New Caledonian crow, the genius of the bird world. While most animals just grab food, these crows design tools, real tools. They target a specific plant with spiky leaves, cut into it with precision, and tear it into a stepped, jagged shape, essentially manufacturing a saw. It's perfect for extracting insects from deep crevices. This isn't luck. It's intentional engineering. If the tool breaks, they repair it. If the right material isn't available, they improvise with wire or twigs. Then there's the famous water displacement test. Researchers recreated the old fable. Food floating in a tube of water, out of reach. Nearby were heavy stones and useless floating foam. The crow examined both, paused, then dropped only the stones into the tube, raising the water level until it could grab the reward. It ignored the foam entirely. That bird understood density and displacement in seconds, faster than a human toddler. They also grasped cause and effect. In another experiment, crows solved a multi-step puzzle involving hidden levers and tools. They built mental models of how the mechanism worked just by observing it. No trial and error frenzy, just logic. So when an AI tells us these birds have language, it shouldn't shock us. They have the hardware. They aren't driven by instinct alone. They analyze, test, and adapt. The truly unsettling part isn't that they can shape tools. It's that they see us as part of the system to be figured out. If they can manipulate objects, why wouldn't they learn to manipulate people? They have the intelligence for it. They're decoding the rules of our world. And up in the trees, there may already be wanted posters with your name on them. Because it's not just that crows are smart. It's that they never forget, and they hold grudges. And this is where it stops being abstract and starts hitting close to home. Because if you think you can mess with a crow and walk away like nothing happened, you are dangerously wrong. Back in 2006, a researcher at the University of Washington named John Marsloff decided to test just how good crows are at recognizing human faces. He didn't want to risk becoming a target himself, so he came up with a workaround. He bought a mask. Not just any mask, a caveman mask. Wearing it, he went around campus capturing and banding a few crows for research. No harm done, just science. But the birds were furious. They screamed, fought back, and clearly did not forget the experience. Afterward, Marsloff took the mask off and went back to normal life. He also had a second mask for comparison. A Dick Cheney mask, who was vice president at the time. When he walked around campus wearing the Cheney mask, the crows couldn't care less. No reaction, nothing. But the instant he put the caveman mask back on, all hell broke loose. The crows dive-bombed him. They followed him across campus, yelling nonstop. At first you might shrug and say, okay, the 7 birds he trapped remembered him. But that's not what happened. Over time, the attacks increased. 7 turned into 20. 20 turned into 40. Crows that had never been captured, crows that weren't even alive when the experiment began, started joining in. 5 years later, Marsloff returned wearing the same mask. 5 years. Most of the original birds were long gone, and yet the crows still attacked on sight. That's the terrifying part. The face had been described. The danger had been explained. The information had been passed down. The crows had created a shared visual profile of the enemy and distributed it across generations. A wanted poster hanging invisibly in the sky. This lines up perfectly with the AI findings we talked about earlier. Remember the red hat sound? What Marsloff saw visually is the same thing the AI heard acoustically. Crows maintain a living database of human faces inside their collective memory. They track the spacing of your eyes, the shape of your nose, the way you move. And they don't just recognize a human, they recognize you. Feed them consistently, and they'll greet you like an old friend. Throw rocks at them, and they'll remember. and repay the favor, sometimes very accurately. The AI showed that this database is constantly updated. The moment a known human enters an area, the signal goes out. Instant broadcast. Something like, target identified, Sector 4. You can change outfits, change routes, even change cities, but you can't change your face. And because crows share this information, you could upset one near your home, drive 10 miles to work, and find the crows there already aware of who you are. Their network outruns your commute. We live in a panopticon, and the guards have wings. They're watching, recording, judging, deciding whether you're friend or threat. And once you're flagged, there's no appeal, no reset button. Your face is the record. And if their facial recognition creeps you out, just wait until you hear about their culture. Because that's what this is. Not just biology, society, with rules, enforcement, and even rituals for the dead. When a crow dies, the flock doesn't scatter. They gather. If you've ever witnessed it, you know how eerie it feels. One bird discovers the body and makes a specific call. Then everything goes quiet. Crows fill the surrounding trees watching. They don't touch the body. They don't fight over it. They observe. For a long time, scientists thought this was grief, and maybe part of it is. But the AI suggests something else is happening too. It's an investigation. They're assessing the scene. Was it a predator, a vehicle, a human? The AI picked up low-frequency sounds during these gatherings that appear to encode cause-of-death information. They're not just mourning, they're documenting, creating an obituary that doubles as a warning. And it doesn't stop there. Researchers have observed what can only be described as crow courts. Birds that steal from younger members or violate social rules can be surrounded, screamed at, pecked, and sometimes driven out entirely. They enforce order, and that judgment extends to us. The AI analysis showed that crows can tell the difference between a human holding a stick and a human holding a gun. They can distinguish a hunter scanning the trees from a hiker watching the trail. One of the most striking discoveries was that the alarm call for human with weapon is completely different from human with umbrella. They aren't reacting to objects. They're reading intent. If you walk outside holding a broom to clean, they stay calm. Lift that broom with aggression, and they're gone before you even swing. They read body language better than we read theirs. And then there's the good list. People who regularly feed crows often report receiving gifts. Shiny trinkets, bits of glass, coins. The AI found that the vocalizations around these humans are softer, higher-pitched, almost affectionate. This isn't random. It's payment, trade, food exchange for trust, protection, loyalty, a cross-species economy. When you put it all together, facial recognition, funerals, courts, trade, threat analysis, it becomes clear these birds aren't just surviving in our world. They're running a parallel civilization on top of it. They have laws, memory, enemies, and the AI suggests they spend a shocking amount of time discussing where you fit in that system, which brings us to the most sci-fi part of all. The AI didn't just analyze individual flocks, it mapped crow communication geographically, and what it found was unbelievable. Crows have dialects. A New York crow sounds different from a London crow. That's expected. But certain words, like alarms or food labels, jump across dialects like viral memes. A new call might appear in a Chicago suburb. 6 months later, that exact pattern shows up hundreds of miles away. It hops from flock to flock, an analog internet, information traveling across the continent without wires, towers, or satellites. This means new threats, a type of trap, a drone, a weapon, can be shared faster than the threat itself spreads. They update their software in real time, learning from experiences they never personally lived. We thought only humans could accumulate knowledge this way. Books, databases, the web. But crows have an oral network just as powerful. Every generation starts ahead of the last. And then comes the final unsettling detail. Near the end of the AI study, something changed. For months, the system had been quietly listening, a digital ghost in the treetops, decoding syntax, mapping hierarchies, cataloging warnings and gossip. It felt like we were on the verge of true interspecies translation. Then the data fractured. Crow vocalization shifted. A new rhythmic pattern emerged, something never recorded before. This wasn't a local dialect tweak. It was a structural change, a new modulation that spread through flocks at viral speed, jumping territory to territory. The AI's confidence scores collapsed. The machine wasn't translating anymore. It was listening, and no longer understood what it was hearing. At that point, the system wasn't translating anything anymore. It was just capturing sound, static, raw noise. The researchers still don't know what it means. The AI is grinding through endless combinations, searching for patterns, hunting for a Rosetta Stone that may no longer exist. But some animal behavior experts have a theory, and it's deeply unsettling. They think the crows noticed the change. They may have spotted the microphones tucked into tree bark, the faint glint of lenses hidden in the leaves. But more importantly, they noticed something else. The humans stopped reacting. Crows are famous for testing limits. They drop nuts in front of cars to study timing. They taunt predators just to measure response speed. This time, when they experimented on us, we didn't flinch. We didn't chase them off. We stood still. We watched. We recorded. That's when it may have clicked. They weren't being observed casually anymore. They were being studied. And if that realization happened, then the sudden shift in their vocal patterns might not be random at all. It might be encryption. That idea sounds insane at first. We like to believe encryption is a human invention, born from war rooms, code books, and advanced math. But think about who we're dealing with. These are animals that solve multi-step physics problems. They remember individual human faces for half a decade. They hold gatherings for their dead and pass knowledge across generations. Is it really that far-fetched to think they could recognize surveillance and adjust their communication to avoid it? If this theory is correct, then what we're hearing now isn't silence because they stopped communicating. It's silence because they moved to a secure channel. They didn't go quiet, they went private. The chaotic noise the AI is picking up may just be interference. Deliberate clutter meant to confuse any listener, while the real information is shared in ways we don't yet know how to detect. A frequency we aren't monitoring, a method we haven't even imagined. And that leads to one final chilling question. If they're smart enough to realize we're listening, and smart enough to hide what they're saying, then what are they discussing out of earshot? What plans are being made now that they know we know? The relationship has changed. We're no longer distant observers peering into a simple ecosystem. The glass has been tapped from the inside. The experiment is no longer one-sided. We're not the only players anymore. So the next time you notice a crow staring at you from a power line, ask yourself, is it just a bird? Or is it a scout, logging your face into a system you'll never see? And if they know we're listening, what exactly are they hiding? Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit like if you think we're not alone in this story, and subscribe for more mysteries like this.